Bang! Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. Today, Pete and I will take a look at crude oil, WTI, trading over $90 to the barrel and why it's up over 90. Obviously, Brent moved up even higher in dollar terms, but we'll talk about that. Some stocks, of course, because Tesla had earnings, Google had earnings, and they were both bad. We'll tell you about that on today's Rebel's Edge. Bang! Well, Pete, this is one of the biggest drops we've seen in Tesla in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I really can't quite remember the last time that I've seen a 15% drop in that stock. And if that stock is dropping 15%, since it's got $1 trillion market cap, yeah, that kind of leaves a mark.
Yeah.
Same thing with Google, multi-trillion-dollar company in the case of Google. It's only down 7%, but it's almost $4 trillion. So as we both know, Pete and I know, folks, we're talking about a cap-weighted index, the S&P. So not equal weight, capitalization weighted. So big moves out of big stocks tend to really either push it down or pick it up. Today, they're pushing down, right, Pete?
Yeah, absolutely they are, John. I mean, that's the I guess the nature of the beast. I mean, then they're it seems like that those bears out there that are always out there, they've been looking and waiting for something like this, John, because as you and I both know, I mean, we've hit a lot of different record highs over time. It seems like almost on a daily basis, or maybe it's even a little bit wider than that. But nonetheless, the bears are getting at least a chance to feast right now, and we'll see how long that lasts. And a lot of it has to do with what's going on in the Strait. I mean, it's obviously when we see something like that, and we see the level of which we're seeing that those prices, John, it's going up in a hurry right now. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Right. Well, so the macro today, folks, is indeed geopolitical risks. The Houthis in Yemen attacked a Saudi flagship and set it on fire. Saudi, of course, has that pipeline across Saudi Arabia so they can get to the Red Sea rather than going through the Strait of Hormuz. And these jokers decided, yeah, let's blow one of those things up with drones or whatever they used. I imagine there's going to be a price to pay for that, Pete. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the U.S. and Israel maybe both going, and maybe Saudi as well, going after Yemen in a big way. But I'd say other than that, Pete, we've got Tesla and Alphabet raising their spending outlook dramatically. And we knew that they were going to spend, in the case of both GOOGL and TSLA, they were going to spend a lot, but apparently people are really not too happy with how much they're spending. Given where those stocks are, they're both getting hammered on the spending today, Pete.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? We'll be talking about Tesla specifically in just a few moments. But I think that the reality is when you were talking about the Strait and we were talking about, the what's going on and the escalation of what's happening over there. I mean, we're looking at the WTI itself, which is the one I always like to look at 92.5 right now. And so what does that really mean? Well, it's up 6%. And if that's one of those elements, which it is, that's going to push around the markets a little bit. I mean, immediately you're going to see impact on airlines, and immediately you're going to see impact on other areas of the markets themselves because of the fact of how much WTI really means to a lot of these various companies and their profits or losses. So this escalation is something that's pretty daggone interesting right now, and you know what? I think the president's probably going to be stepping in and doing something pretty rapidly, John.
Well, just to point out for our friend Carl, Pete, who I love to torture, take a wild guess how many days during Obama's term crude oil was above 100. Now, it's not above 100 today, folks. It's up. It's 92, I think. But how many days was crude oil above 100 during this president's tenure. 24 days. Under Obama, take a wild guess, Pete, because I know I'm catching you out of the blue with this one.
I'd say significantly higher.
1,100 days that it was above 100 WTI to the barrel. Google it, folks. And I wonder how much Carl and others have talked about that, Pete. But yeah. Oh my gosh, we get even close to 100 again. And it's going to be, this president doesn't care about the American people. Okay. Anyway, let's dive into the VIX, Pete, and the VXN. So the VXN, before Pete starts, is the metric of movement. You can call it risk if you want, but the movement expected in the quad Q. And the VIX is the same thing, except in the S&P 500. So maybe take over, Pete.
Yeah, absolutely, John. I think it's important to keep a very close eye on this. I mean, you know, there are certain levels. I will say this, just a day or so ago, we did have multiple hits on buying calls in the VIX itself. So that's something that I think is pretty interesting. How about the timing of that? I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary, to be honest with you. I mean, we've seen buyers of the VIX and it takes a little bit of time. And then all of a sudden it seems like, wow, they really knew something. Well, this didn't take any time at all. And I think it's interesting. We got very near 20. We didn't get over 20. We've been closer to 1950 and we've pulled off of that a little bit. But, you know, you look at that and you look at some of these numbers, pretty extraordinary. And, you know, you were mentioning the VXN, you know, the NASDAQ volatility up about 9% and a lot closer to 30 as we speak. So that's pretty interesting just to keep a very close eye on that. And we know that. I mean, well, we should know that. If all you got to do is take a look over at the NASDAQ itself and say, well, what does this thing look like? It's down 2.5%, a little bit more than that, John. So yeah, there's good reason for that VXN to be where it is right now and maybe even a little bit higher. Yep.
Well, let's dive into a prediction market, Pete, because this will play right into our first stock of the day, which is Tesla. Mm-hmm. And I noted, Pete, that Elon Musk's net worth approximately the middle of June was $1.34 trillion. Mm-hmm. Obviously big numbers. First trillionaire ever on this planet. Well, now we've got people on the prediction markets, Pete, saying where do they think Elon will be above by certain dates. And he has basically fallen by half because of SpaceX and because of Tesla, both of which are publicly traded. So it's pretty easy to track that. So he's only, Pete, worth about $700 and some odd billion. And there's the actual betting there is there, folks. But look at the number right below Elon's picture, because $78,000 is all that anybody cares to wager on this. So in other words, nobody really cares. Elon, I'm sure, cares, but again, he doesn't spend like a guy that has that much money anyway. So he probably doesn't watch it tick for tick, Pete. But I just thought this was an interesting view of where he is right now and what people think of his net worth.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, the sheer volume speaks a lot, I think, about this whole thing. People are interested in Elon. They want to talk about Elon. You know, the first $1 trillion man, that's pretty amazing when you think of all those things. But I guess my takeaway is it is amazing how the poly markets work, that there is nothing that you can't bet on. It's just absolutely incredible. And, you know, it's something that, you know, I think more and more people are embracing it, John. But there are certain things that are going to get a lot more numbers wise, volume wise, than betting on what his worth is going to be. But it's intriguing. There's no doubt about it. I think it's fun for the people that are involved in it right now. That's for sure. But there are so many other things that are much, much bigger than that I think we'll probably keep tracking on those.
Well, let's talk then about Elon's first public company that he started, because he didn't start PayPal. He and Peter Thiel and the PayPal mafia, yeah, they were all there, but his first breakaway as an independent was Tesla. and now SpaceX. But Tesla, Pete, came out with earnings of 33 cents versus 53, so a 20-cent miss. That's a big miss. That is a big miss. We understand that their margins are under pressure. Cash flow was negative. Free cash flow was negative $1 billion with a B. So just even though I might be a fan of Elon, I'm going to give it to you straight. This was a horrible earnings report. So despite record deliveries, the stock was just getting hammered. And like I said, I can't remember the last time it was down 15%, Pete. It would have probably been, maybe last year around the tariff tantrum or whatever. But this is a big drop for Tesla.
Yeah, it certainly is, John. And I mean, as you said, I mean, whether you like him or not doesn't really matter. It's a matter of what were they able to accomplish, and what they accomplished was they have their Capex is up 142%. That's kind of scary. The margin issues that you mentioned as well, the cash flows going into the cash flow of negative of over $1 billion is also an issue. They had to have all kinds of incentives out there, John, and price cuts going on and all the rest of it. So, this was not a great quarter. As a matter of fact, it was a pretty awful quarter all the way around. Like you said, they missed on just about everything. I mean, you take a look outside of the fact that they had the deliveries and so forth, 480,000 vehicles. So that's pretty impressive, but you got to make money on these things too. And that's the problem. They're not really, the margins are not there, and that's going to be a problem going forward. But stock's getting hit pretty good today. I think it's going to pay the price. I don't think this is a level where you'd have to say, well, I got to get in there. I got to do this or whatever. I think you want to be a little bit standoffish and wait for something that looks like it's going to be good, because certainly this was about as bad a quarter as it could be. Yeah.
Well, I had a friend, Pete, over with us this past weekend, and he's a big Rivian fan. And I like Rivian. Yeah. I really do. I think it's a cool vehicle. But take a guess, once again, Pete, maybe we'll have to make that a segment. Make Pete guess. How many vehicles Rivian has delivered in the history of the company?
That's a tough one. I'll just throw out a number and say 100,000.
187,000 vehicles delivered since it started. Elon does 400 and some odd thousand per quarter.
Yeah.
Per quarter. So the one is very popular. They've come out with R2, which is their second version of a Rivian truck that's going to be priced lower, which means, of course, in all likelihood, less profit. But nonetheless, I am not a hater of Rivian. Just kind of pointing out that Rivian, in their history, has delivered 187,000 vehicles. Google it, my friends. Meanwhile, Tesla, 440,000 in the last quarter.
Yeah.
And that's with them converting one of their lines to Optimus robots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
it's amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. All right, let's move on, Pete, to another company, URI. URI, Bank of America, raised their target on this one to 1,300 from basically 1,200. Nice little move to the upside. They maintained a buy rating. United Rentals reported adjusted earnings of 1276 versus 1154. So this is the polar opposite of what Tesla did. These guys beat by a ton instead of missing by a ton. And their guidance, Pete, was also pretty strong on a horrible tape. URI leading among S&P 500 stocks.
And you were comparing that to the Tesla, which was pretty awful. And this is unbelievably good. And you're 100% right. I mean, Bank of America's out there with a buy rating already, John. They're looking at those numbers, and they lifted it up a little bit. When you look at the stocks, it's kind of interesting. Tesla's down about 12%. United Rentals is up about 12%, and it's banging up against 52-week highs and all the rest of it. So, it's amazing. Year to date, this is a stock that's up 43%. I don't know how many people even know the name United Rentals. I mean, I think that quite a few people do that are in the industry, but outside of that, probably not. So it's interesting to see how well they're doing right now, John. I think it says something about, the economy and so forth. So a lot of different things. The analyst upgrade was one of them. But like you said, the full year rev guide, that was something that was obviously a no-brainer, and it was going to be great. And they did come out. So they literally hit everything that they needed to hit. And I think it's probably about as good a quarter as I've seen of late. So pretty impressive. And the stock, like I say, it's up there at the 52-week high. It's pretty amazing.
Well, and what they do, folks, as the name implies, they provide forklifts, boom lifts,
Yep.
which whenever you see a man or a woman on a platform that rises up, to either work on the side of a building or whatever, that's a boom lift. These guys rent all that kind of heavy equipment. You don't really go there to rent just a ladder. You're renting something big to either repair or build something. Yeah. And the fact that they're doing this, Pete, and doing so well at it, I think might be a read through going forward, but just not today.
Right.
Except for them. But I think it's a read through on how the economy is as well, because you wouldn't see people doing as much with United Rental Equipment if the economy was like this.
Right.
All right. Let's hit Medpace Holdings, Pete. This one, symbol MEDP. It's a clinical research organization, or a CRO, and investors were relieved, I'll say, Pete, because the bookings rebounded for them. So they actually showed some pretty solid growth, and it was up, in fact, pretty strong. The results, I'll let Pete hit that, but revenue numbers, Pete, were definitely through the roof and up substantially over this time last year.
Yeah, very impressive. Up 17%, John, when you're talking about the revenue, the beat that they had. They also had new businesses. That was only up 28% year over year.
Only.
Yeah. So they're doing things right. And they're actually even talking about, hey, they raised the full year guide as well for the revenue. So this is a heck of a quarter. Stock's up about 15, 16% last I looked. 52-week highs were hitting the pre-market. So really interesting to see how well they did. And, this is one of those quarters where you're looking at United Rentals and say, another strong report. You look at Medpace and you'd have to say, another strong report. And of course, you had Tesla, which was a little bit weaker than expected. So I still think we're on an unbelievable pace when it comes to earnings is saving the day. Obviously, today, the market's, there's a heck of a lot of pressure on it for all the right reasons, but there's a reason why we're up here near the record levels too, because the earnings season has been that strong and continues to be in most cases. Some cases, no. But we obviously, yesterday or the day before, we were talking about 3M and how strong that was. And now all of a sudden we're talking about United Rentals. We're talking about Medpace with a little bit of weakness from Tesla. So you're going to have some slip through the cracks. And unfortunately for Tesla, they were one of those that slipped through. But it's still an amazing quarter, I think, John, for earnings again.
Well, let's wind it up, Pete, with Medicare and Medicaid provider Molina Health, MOH. So they're down 12%, pretty solidly to the downside. Significantly declined in revenue, did the company. And that is the reason that they're being hit here, Pete. Total revenue fell from $11.5 billion to about $10.9 billion, the revenue side of things. So if you're seeing shrinkage, just like George Costanza, that's not a good thing, especially in stocks. Probably not for George Costanza either. But what do you see on this one, Pete?
Well, they talked about what some of the issues they had, John. One of them was the higher medical costs that they've got. They did raise the full year guide, but it was still underneath the expectations that were out there. So they may have lifted it up, but not enough. And, the Q2 earnings, that was a beat. You look at this one, it was okay. Nothing great. The stock has not done a whole lot this year, but even with this this drop of about, call it 12% today, it's still up about 12% year to date. So it's in positive territory, which is something. But certainly this quarter is not one that they were very proud of, very happy about. And there's some certain issues. And I think those medical costs probably were some of the biggest issues that they had. So that revenue and the earnings year over year, the decline, that's never a good thing. And that's exactly what the problem was in this particular report.
Right. Well, time for a little sports, Pete, because a day like today, we don't want to spend too much time on Google or
Yeah.
Tesla or Molina. There's plenty of blood out there today.
Yeah.
The Dow was down 600 at one point today, and it's still down near that level.
Yeah.
So let's try to brighten people up a little with maybe some your view of sports, Pete.
Sure. Why don't we start with golf? And we've got a great picture here as well. But the PGA is here in Minnesota, John, not too far away from where I am here. It's in Blaine, Minnesota. That's the 3M Open. We were just talking about 3M the other day with their earnings, John. That was really powerful and strong. Nice timing, by the way. And now you've got the 3M Open with this TPC Twin Cities in Minnesota. It's a beautiful course that these guys are going to be playing on. And one of the things that they do for fun when they do this type of thing is they obviously want the best golfers they can get to be able to show up and all the rest of it. And Scotty Scheffler is one of those guys, and he was golfing just yesterday with the Minnesota Vikings head football coach. And it, pretty exciting. Matter of fact, there was something I saw on Twitter earlier today, John, where he's putting, and the head football coach is a damn good golfer from the look of things. He drained this thing from like 15, 16 feet out or whatever. So lots of fun. And, it's something that kind of is a little bit relaxing when everything else seems to be a little bit kind of chaotic right now that we're trying to deal with. But it's a beautiful course that they've got there. The Asian Tour partnership is going to be great for golf, and Ryan Fox and these guys that are newer to a lot of people are out there and playing some great golf. I just think it's kind of fun to watch some of these sports guys, and especially quarterbacks. One of the things that used to bug me in training camp, John, was this. The quarterbacks, they don't do a damn thing. They stand around throwing a freaking football around. They barely even break a sweat. And so you know what they do after, in between the first practice and the second practice? Well, they go over and play a little golf. They come back, they throw on their uniform, and they go out there throwing the football. I remember I used to get so ticked off at guys, whether it's Tommy Kramer or whomever, these guys, they're great people. But the fact that they are barely sweating and the rest of us are in there with IVs in both arms trying to replace all the fluids that we lost from sweating and, and all the rest of it. But it's why they're such good golfers. It's why those quarterbacks are always those guys who go to these things where you've got the pro-ams and all the rest of it, and they drag in some quarterback who can shoot it, 3 over par or something like that. Well, because they play it nonstop and they don't get beat up all that often. So it's just kind of fun that it's here. And a really good friend of mine, Mark Dusbavic, who's a part of the whole production that goes on with the PGA, he's going to be here. So we're all going to get together sometime Saturday and kick around some of the golf stuff or whatever. But it's just literally not too many miles this way, John. And I was talking to Jesse Ventura just yesterday, and there's a guy who loves his golf, by the way.
He's a member out there, isn't he, Pete?
He is. That's exactly right. He's a member out there. He goes there. I don't even know what days of the week or whatever. And I said days with an S. But, Jesse is still Jesse Ventura, and he's still talking about a lot of things in the political world. So who knows what'll happen. But he certainly is a good golfer and likes to watch those guys. So I'm not surprised at all if he goes out there to watch a little bit of that tournament. But I don't know. Have you watched much of the golf this year, John? I mean, these guys are amazing. Yeah.
And I was down there at the Masters this year again. Yeah. But I'll point out, Pete, that Tiger Woods himself proposed something. He's on a committee that can do this kind of stuff. And he said, what we should do is move the pot up to like 3 to 5 million for every tournament. Not because Tiger's greedy, but because he said that way the players will want to play more.
Yeah.
So you don't just have them skipping things like this, the Minnesota Open, TPC, or whatever. He also said that if you didn't attend a certain number of them, that you might be blocked from because you're being too specialized, and that the crowd, if it's a PGA event, the crowd is there because it's an official PGA event and so forth. So I respected that. Because, again, it's kind of the opposite of our friend LaFlop, where, if you go out there, you want to see Scotty Scheffler. You'd like to see Rory and these guys, John Rahm or whatever, depending on, how Liv is doing and so forth.
Yeah.
But you want to see those big guys out there. And if you don't, then you're kind of feeling, cheated. So anyway, yeah, I have not seen this one yet, Pete, but I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably watch some highlights.
Yeah, it should be fun. Should be fun. The weather's perfect, although it's going to scorch up on Saturday again up into the mid 90s. So these guys, they should take advantage of it right now because it's in the 70s or something like that. I mean, we've really dropped back down into a little bit closer to normal, but we're about to spike right back up on Saturday, Sunday. So good luck on that whole thing. John, I just wanted to point out one thing that was really exciting until it wasn't, which was yesterday. The Red Sox were on fire. They only play 162 games only.
Yeah.
But in the franchise of the Red Sox, their record was 15 straight wins, which is a heck of a lot of wins, in a row. Starting on July 1st, John, they had not lost a single game until last night. And it's just amazing. Their record was 37-48. They win 15 in a row. They finally dropped one. But I was trying to figure out, what is it that these guys are doing that has changed what they were, which was a sub 500 team that suddenly all of a sudden catapults well above that. So I was looking at it, and there's a couple of guys on the batting side of things that have absolutely been on fire during this 15, and it makes sense. But that's really what really kind of pumped this whole thing up. You've got a guy named Abreu out there. He had 4 home runs, John, during just the Rays series that they were playing. Contreras is another guy, had clutch home runs that made a lot. He's got 22 home runs this year. Duran is another guy out there. He's got 13 home runs this year. Always seems to be the guy that when the pressure's on, they've been able to do well. And then, of course, they've had a little bit of pitching as well with Chapman, who's done a really, really nice job closing. And that guy throws smoke, man. It's unbelievable. But the ERA for the team during this 15 games until it finally got broken yesterday, 259. So all they had to do is get at least 3 runs. If they could get those 3 runs, their odds of winning were pretty damn good. And they have made a huge move now in that whole area of baseball. And it's pretty exciting that, even though they lost yesterday, they might be able to grasp this again, John, and start getting another one of these. And I think that they likely will. It just feels like these guys are getting pretty comfortable until yesterday. And you know what? You could blame a little bit of it on pitching, and you could certainly blame it on the bats yesterday. They only had 1 run. But this is pretty cool to see somebody, in this era and everything else to win 15 in a row. That's a pretty amazing thing. So the Boston Red Sox salute you guys. What do you think of that whole thing, man?
Well, when you told me you were going to cover this, Pete, I looked up what's the major league record. 1916. The New York Giants. Yeah, New York Giants before they moved to San Francisco.
Yeah.
So the New York Giants won 26 in a row in 1916, Pete. So these are pretty astonishing. That record may never be broken.
I can't see it getting broken.
As good as these teams are, and with players as good as they are, I don't know that you can really beat 26 teams, or obviously not each one's an individual team.
Right.
But if you're playing a 4-game set or whatever, to beat a team 4 games in a row on that, is a lot. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's a lot. But to win 26 in a row or 15, as far as the Red Sox here, you're right. That should be noteworthy, and I'm glad you threw it into sports today.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I mean, I do like baseball, and I like baseball in person when I have gone. I don't go every year and all the rest of that type of thing. But you know what? There's a lot of fascinating things that you can watch when you're out there. And these guys are such athletes now. If you go back 30 years ago, the athleticism of the baseball was not the same, even close to what it is now. But these guys mostly are in very good shape. They look like professional athletes, and they are. And I'll tell you what, some of these guys are absolutely amazing. I mean, we talk about Ohtani a lot because of all the right reasons. This kid is in unbelievable shape. He's done unbelievable things. And the fact that he's a pitcher as good as he is, as well as a batter as good as he is, makes up for a lot. So that guy's pretty impressive. And there's more guys out there, not like him necessarily, but there's more guys out there that are just far more athletic than they ever used to be.
Yep. You can see why too. I mean, obviously back in 1916, Pete, that was probably those men who played back then probably had to supplement their income.
Oh yeah.
These guys don't have to supplement anything. They can get additional revenue, and I don't begrudge them it, but can they get sponsorships and all the rest to take a 20 million or 30 or 40 million dollar salary even higher? Yeah, they can. We all know that. But when you've got that kind of potential, you can see why people are willing to be out there working out year round and have a nutritionist to make sure they're eating right, to make sure they're sleeping right, to get a massage every week, or maybe even 5 days a week. Who knows? You can see why, because they got the money to do it. Look at Chris Henry over in the football side of things. They've all got other than what the team provides, they provide for themselves a lot of that specialized training and so forth that keeps them in the game. Even somebody as dedicated as Henry, I think it's important that these guys have that nutrition as well as the sleep and muscle fatigue and all the rest. They got to be out there in their best shape. Well,
it's extended the career of Aaron Rodgers is the last thing I'll say, because that guy spends something close to $1 million a year just to stay in great shape. So yeah, you're right, John.
Brady probably did the same, Pete. Both of them, to play into their 40s, probably had to do that. But now the younger players, are they partying? I'm sure. But are they really caring for themselves more than their predecessors? I would also say, sure. All right. We appreciate all of you guys joining us. We always appreciate any input you'd like to give us on the shorts or on the full episode. So let us know. And we will be back Monday, because Thursday is our last Rebels Edge of the week. So we'll be back Monday. At what time, Pete?
1 p.m. Eastern time. Got to be there. This is where it all happens, man. It's great.
Bang. And make sure you check out the Rebel Investors Club, folks. It's right there on our homepage. We'd love to have you join.
Yeah.
See you Monday. Bang.